Okay, so let's get started. As we mentioned, the encore class for Yosef Lindell. Everybody was so excited, so they requested him back for the encore class number 5. So here we go, and all kinds of funny stuff about fun stuff, not funny stuff, fun stuff about Jewish music. Okay, Bavakasha, Rav Yossi, it's all yours.
Yeah. Yeah, so fun and funny, I would say. We have both. And actually
Yeah.
it's actually what's particularly funny is that just this past week a couple of things happened which I'm going to share with the class today in regard to Jewish music, but we'll get there. But first actually what I want to do, so I'm going to do like a whole bunch of different topics today, and hopefully we'll have some time at the end for some discussion as well. I mean, that's the plan. I'd like to do is I'd actually like to go a little bit back to something we talked about in class number 3 in particular, but we've been talking about throughout the whole series, which is this idea of implicit and explicit influence from non-Jewish sources on Jewish music. So we talked about a lot of this throughout, and we talked about like Solomon Rossi and his musical inclinations and his Renaissance music and stuff like that. But another example, and perhaps one of the earliest examples of someone who explicitly borrowed non-Jewish styles and tunes for Jewish music, is actually someone in the Sephardic world. So I want to talk about that because we also haven't talked a lot about Sephardic music. And I just learned about this recently. And this was, if you maybe you've heard of Yisrael Najara. Yisrael Najara was a poet and who lived in Sfa, Damascus, and Gaza, that area, in the late 1500s. And he was at least somewhat affiliated with the circle of the Rav Yitzchak Luria, the Arizal, and the Kabbalah coming out of Tzfat. So I believe it was 15. I'm actually going to share. I have a little sheet I'm going to share with you just for a moment as like a supplement here, so you can see this. So you can see this. So this is a page from Najara's book Zmirot Yisrael, which he published in 1586. And as you can see over here, I'm sharing with you Kari Bon, and you're probably familiar with this piyut, very important zemer that we sing Friday night. So he is the author of Kari Bon, and notice what he writes at the top of it. He says lachan, he says the melody or the tune is, and he has something in Arabic, which I don't actually know how to read Arabic, but he has in Hebrew characters, but he's saying it's an Arabic tune explicitly. He says, even says like Arabi over there at the top. And then he says, if you look on the very left hand, he says Rast. So Rast is one of the makams. We talked about how Sephardic music is based on the Arabic art music of the time, these Turkish makams, and that each makam, especially in the Syrian tradition, each makam, different makam is used for a different Shabbos out of the year, and everything's going to be in that style. So he explicitly says over here, he identifies to you the tune that he's using, which is an Arabic tune, and the makam, which is Rast. So you can see over here that Najara, very early on in the 1500s, is already explicitly doing this, where he's borrowing. Um, now let me. I want to. What I want to do is I want to play for you just a little bit of this Makam Rast. I just went on YouTube. I typed in Makam Rast just so you can hear what it sounds like. And this is not even a Jewish per se source that I'm playing. These are just sort of. This is Arabic music. This is kind of how Arabic music works. Let me share with you this Makam Rast, and just so you can kind of hear how this sounds, like the general sense of how something in Makam Rast will sound. And it goes something like this. So you can kind of get a sense of the style there of how that might have originally sounded, his rendition of Kari Bon. I mean, presumably it was a specific tune, so it didn't sound exactly like that, but that was the basic scale in what it would have sounded like. So Najara was actually very heavily criticized for this by various authorities, among them Chaim Vital, a student of the Ari, who said all sorts of terrible things about Najara that I don't even want to quote here. Unclear whether this was true or not. But in any event, you see how on the one hand, it was very early this explicit borrowing of non-Jewish styles in his work, and on the other hand, it was also controversial basically from the get go. So we always see these two sides of the matter. But again, the makams themselves became very widely adapted in Sephardic tefillah, and that's essentially the nusach that they use. Is different makams for different Shabbatot. Okay, so that was just sort of a cap to what we talked about a lot in class 3. Now in class 4, we talked a lot about all sorts of new developments in Jewish music, Jewish pop music in particular, and we gave all sorts of different examples of all sorts of things that I found very fascinating. Hopefully you did too, about what was going on. And where we stopped was we didn't get a chance to really talk about what was going on in Israeli music. And I think this is an important topic too that I want to share with you, because I think Israeli music it's really very different what's going on there. It's very new and different than anything else we've talked about so far. So let me share I'm going to share the rest of my source sheet for class number 4, and we'll talk about that.
Chodesh
Um,
Tov.
Chodesh Tov. Um, so the first thing I want to talk about with regard to Israeli music is how there are composers, particularly religious composers in Israel, that also have a mainstream appeal. But what they're doing is they're creating these religious compositions I would call almost like new piyutim that they're creating. Sort of the art of piyut originated in Eretz Yisrael, and we talk about this in my siddur, for those who are in my siddur class, in like the 5th century, the 6th century, the 7th century in Eretz Yisrael, and you've got these very complex compositions, like Rabbi Lazar HaKalir, who wrote all these very complex piyutim that we still say many of them on Tisha B'Av, for example. And now you have composers in Israel who actually have a mainstream appeal beyond the religious community that are composing almost new piyutim. Um, and for example, you have Yishai Ribo in a famous song that he wrote called Seder HaAvodah. What he does over here is he takes the piyut that we say, Ashkenazim at least, say. Well, actually, I think it's really a lot of the text is from the Mishnah itself. So it's been adapted to piyutim in both Ashkenazim, among both Ashkenazim and Sfardim. But he takes this text of the Avodah on Yom Kippur, the service that the Kohen Gadol performs in the Beis Hamikdash and Yom Kippur, and he turns it into a new kind of piyut. And you can see over here in source number 17 how he's quoting the Mishnah and the piyut itself, the original one. He says, "V'kacha amar ana Hashem." Those are all parts of the text that the Kohen Gadol recites. But then what's interesting is he then creates a new text. And he says, "V'im Adam haya yachol liskor et hapegamim et hachetronot et kol hapsha'im et kol ha'avonot beta kak hayamona achat v'achat achat u'shtayim achat v'shalosh achat v'arba achat v'chamesh." And he says, if a man could remember all the flaws, shortcomings, transgressions, all the wrongdoings, he would surely count 1, 1, and 1, 1, and 2. And see, he's sort of taking the text in the Mishnah, the text of the piyutim, and he's adding his own take on it. And he's saying he's basically adding an original meditation on sin to the piyut itself. That's not really in the original text, but it kind of becomes like a new piyut over there. So he's one of the people doing this, and it's a really interesting development that you don't really see before. Let me, let's see. Yeah, okay. Let me give you one more example of this, and then maybe I'll play you just a little bit of this also. There's another artist named Shmuel who is popular in Israel now also, and he wrote a number of songs. And one of them he wrote is Tein Li Tefillah, which I also think is a really fascinating song, doing the same kind of new piyut writing that we just saw in Seder Avodah. So he starts this song, Ben Adam Malachan Yerdam Kum Kra B'Tachanunim. Now this line, possibly some of you recognize it. This is actually the line of the beginning of Sephardi Slichot. That Sephardi Slichot always begin with a piyut beginning with this line, "Man, why have you fallen asleep? Get up and call out to God in prayer." But then his song quickly becomes a meditation on how we're calling out to God, but we're not effective. And he davens, "Give me one good prayer, Tein li tefillah achat tova." And he says at the end, he almost inverts it, and he says, "Ribono shel olam, Master of the universe, malachan yirdam. Why have you fallen asleep, Tatziloti?" So it begins with the traditional text of the liturgy, Ben Adam Malachan Yirdam, which begins the Slicha cycle in Sephardic communities, and it ends with an inversion of that almost calling out to God and saying, "God, why do you appear to be asleep?" So I think it's like a fascinating, again, playing with the words of traditional tefillah and making new songs out of it. And these songs are not popular, my understanding is not popular only among religious Dati Israelis, but also among the Israeli public in general. Let me just play for you a little bit of each of those so you can see what I'm talking about. Okay, so we have a little bit of Seder Avodah here from Yishai Ribo.
אומר אנא השם, כפר לחטאים, לעוונות ולפשעים שחטאתי לפניך אני וביתי. ואם אדם היה יכול לזכור את הפגמים, את החסרונות, את כל הפשעים, את כל העוונות, בטח ככה היה מונה אחת, אחת ואחת, אחת ושתיים, אחת ושלוש, אחת וארבע.
And you can hear in the achad, achad, va'achad, that's also part of the liturgy. So as you can see how he's playing with the liturgy and using it for new purposes in really interesting ways. And here's a little bit of Shmuel's Tainli Tefillah. Let's see, where does this start?
בן אדם, מה לך נרדם? קום קרא בתחנוני, קול דומייתך לאוזני כתופים, הנה מצאתי חן בעיניך אבי. תן לי תפילה אחת טובה שתפתח לי את כל השערים.
And I think personally that's just a really beautiful song. And there's just so much going on in it. I mean, you can just see him in the video. You see this very religious man. And he's writing a very religious song, but at the same time, he's playing with the liturgy in interesting ways. He's questioning, in some ways, traditional theologies. I mean, in that he's sort of, I mean, in a way that we do sometimes. On Tisha B'Av, for example, I think I've talked about this before. Also on Tisha B'Av, we do call out to God and challenge God in a way, and he's doing that interestingly in the song, and also that it has this widespread appeal. So that's like one aspect of Israeli music I want to talk about. But the second aspect I want to talk about is, I think, even really just kind of almost like it's hard to even understand how this happened, how this came about, and people have been talking about this. But the line, in a way, between religious and secular music in Israel has almost ceased to exist. Because you have, on the one hand, you have the non-religious people listening to Yishai Ribo and others, but you also have these non-religious artists making these songs with religious content in a way that just really didn't exist until recently. And I don't really listen to this stuff so much myself, but friends of mine pointed out some of these to me. I thought it was just so fascinating. There's this song that came out a year ago, maybe or so, called Rishimat Kiniot, which means like shopping list, by these artists called Ness and Stilla. And it doesn't, if you listen to it, and I'll play for you just a tiny bit of it for a second in a moment, but like it doesn't sound like the style doesn't sound remotely Jewish. It sounds very much like a standard kind of Israeli type, I mean Israeli type, but like like that Mediterranean influenced pop music. And it's the video is kind of irreverent and the lyrics are kind of irreverent. But if you look at some of and it's all about sort of a woman trying to figure out dating and trying to find a husband for herself and the things she's looking for in a man. And let me share with you the source because I put some of the lyrics on there, and you can get a sense of what I'm talking about and how unusual sort of these lyrics are. Um, she talks about like ani mechapesa ish pashut. I'm looking for a simple man. And what is important about him? Lev tover shemer kashrut. He's good heart and keeps kosher. Okay. And then if you go to the second verse over there, he's like lo choshev ma'kippah shalo +2 doesn't think from his kippah, so he's not too religious. But Yehudi kasher, Baruch Hashem, he's a kosher Jew. Lo sam pepperoni on the pizza, he doesn't put pepperoni on the pizza. And then like he cooks me for right. So all these sort of Jewish religious aspects are thrown into it. He's like hu yikadesh shel bless the wine v'ani afrish challah, and I'll separate the challah. And then you even have like But then on the other hand, at the end, he's like, on the weekends he goes drinking with me. So you got this kind of mixture of sort of this religious and completely non-religious mixed up in the same song over here. It's a really interesting kind of mix that's happening in Israel now, and these types of songs there are more and more of them. Another one I had just discovered shortly before this class, because actually Tablet magazine just this week published an article about this phenomenon, and they call it pop emuni. Maybe that's what's even called in Israel. It's like religious pop almost. And you have this sort of whole new sort of culture around these singers where like they're taking aspects of halacha and they're incorporating it and Jewish tradition into their songs, even though they themselves are not religious. Like you'll see, apparently, according to the article, you'll see like guys signs in these videos now wearing tzitzis, no kippah, but they're wearing tzitzis, and you make the tzitzis like into a fashion statement. They might be wearing some like weird chains, all sorts of stuff like that along with it. But it's this whole thing. There's like this artist named Odea, and maybe I'm pronouncing her name wrong. I don't know, but she had a song from a couple of years ago where she's talking about all these things that she's half these things. So some of these lines are just great, and she's like, um, she'll be like in the song, Ani chatzi charedit v'ani chatzi levusha. I'm half charedi and I'm half dressed. V'ata chatzi ma'amin, and you half believe. V'ata mefaresh li yad Torah, and you explain the Torah to me. So you have sort of these really weird confluences of religious and secular going on in the same song and in the same culture at once. And this, I think, is just something that's so unique to what's going on in Israel right now that you just don't find elsewhere in the Jewish world when it comes to music. Another like thing I find really interesting is sort of Israel's participation in the Eurovision competition, the Eurovision Song Competition. We talked about this a little bit actually with regard to Mordechai Ben David, how he took a non-Jewish Eurovision song, this Genghis Khan song, and made it into a Jewish song with entirely different lyrics. But now you have Israelis going out and performing as part of this contestants in this Eurovision show and doing very well actually. There's 2 years in a row there were songs related to October 7th. One, October Rain, which you'll find now being performed by not just Israelis, but also like covers being performed by from like artists all over, like all the pop artists, all the Jewish pop artists in America, like Simcha Leiner, Shulam Lemmer, those people we were talking about last time, they're also performing these songs. And I think the one more recently is even more interesting is called New Day Will Rise, by Yuval Raphael. And what's really interesting about this song to me, and let me see, I'll show you some of the lyrics from the source sheet again. So it seems on the one hand like it's a love song. If you look at source number 20, you can see like even if you say goodbye, you'll always be around to lift me up, take me high, keep my feet close to the ground. So it's a love song, but it's also a song about Jewish continuity. If you look at the chorus, like you look at the chorus, like New Day Will Rise, life will go on, everyone cries, don't cry alone. So it's got sort of that religious or at least that nationalistic component to it to the song. And then she sings in French, but then she sings in Hebrew later on in the song, and she takes a pasuk from Shir Hashir, which I have in source number 21. Vast floods cannot quench love, nor rivers drown it. So she's actually quoting from Tanakh in the song as well. So it's got this sort of, again, this interesting confluence of religious and secular. And then you have this additional layer on top of all that is you have religious singers covering the song, like people like Simcha Leiner and Shulam Lemmer. They both have covers of the song. So Shulam Lemmer will cover the song, and he'll sing it as is. He won't change anything in the original song, but he'll say that he has an intro, so he's sort of saying, well, we hope Mashiach comes really soon, implying that this is the new day that will rise. When the song says new day will rise, what he's talking about, what it should be talking about, or what it is talking about in Shulam Lemmer's interpretation, is that's talking about Mashiach coming. And then you have Simcha Leiner, who actually had someone write lyrics for the song that subtly changed the song around. So if you look at verse 2 in source 22, if you might say goodbye, always be around to bring me home, to take me high when I reach your sacred ground. Although I'm miles away tonight, you're a dream that's coming true. It's been changed to a love song between a man and a woman, to a love song for what? For the land of Israel, which is really fascinating. And then he changes the pasuk also in the bridge. Instead of the pasuk from Shir Hashir about love, it's Imlo Alet Yerushalayim Arosh Simchati. I will put Jerusalem at the height of my joy. So he's basically it's the same song, but with slightly modified lyrics in a few places, slightly modified Hebrew lyrics. That's changing the meaning of it. But again, you just see this really interesting confluence of religious and secular in these songs, and the way that from artists are singing them and adapting them and using them in their own ways. And I think it's another really interesting thing that's coming out of Israeli music, this blend of religious and secular in ways that we just haven't seen before. Let's see. I think I was going to play for you just like a tiny bit of some of what the things I was talking about. So let's see. Let's start with Rishimat Kinio. I didn't want to play the video, but I'll play just a tiny bit of the song. You can hear it.
אני מחפשת איש פשוט, עושה סיבוב בשוק, לב טוב ושומר כשרות. זה מה שחשוב, שיהיה לו כסף כי זה לא כללה, איש קליל, גר קלאב, גבר שאפשר לסמוך עליו, בעל בלי קולה, מחלקת נקודות, תוספו. אם הוא טובים אמא שלו, לא חושב מהכיפה שלו, יהודי כשר ברוך השם, איש רגיש מתחשב, עושה פפרוני על הפיצה, אם הוא מנצח אותי בפיפה, מבשל לי שישי לקידוד, אני לא צריכה הרבה איש פשוט בקיצור.
As you can very much hear in this song that like it doesn't sound really like a Jewish style. It sounds like it's just a standard kind of I don't know like a pop style and it doesn't really and it's about like making a list of what she's looking for in a guy, almost like going on some kind of Tinder date or something like that. But at the same time, there's like religious elements thrown in there in really interesting ways.
It sounds like rap to me.
Yeah, probably.
Rap.
Yeah, probably rap. I don't know. I'm not even so good at identifying all these genres always, but it's just interesting how all these religious elements are thrown in there. And this is similar in New Day Will Rise. I'll just play again, it's just a little tiny bit of this.
And even if you say goodbye, you'll never go away. You are the rainbow in my sky, my colors in the gray, my only wish upon a star, sunshine in the day.
So you see, it's like a love song, but then there's that nationalistic part about New Day Will Rise, and then you have the pasuk later on. Right, so I think you get a sense of that also. So all sorts of really interesting things going on in Israeli music. All this really interesting borrowing from non-Jewish things and the combination of religious and secular all in one. So that's kind of what I wanted to share from the rest of last class that we didn't get to last time. And I think, so let's talk then so the second part of what I want to do is I want to talk about shifting gears again. I want to talk about shul tunes, different shul tunes, and some of the sources of these shul tunes. And I think we're going to see some interesting patterns and some interesting, hopefully surprising things in this regard as well. And then we'll give some kind of conclusion, and then we'll open up the floor. So I have a few examples of shul tunes, and toward the end, if people want to share other ones that they know about, I'm happy to do that too. But let's talk about some of the ones that I've looked into a little bit. So let's kind of go through let's go through a Shabbos, and let's see what we can uncover. So, number one, we'll start with Shalom Aleichem. So everyone knows this tune. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharetz, Malachei Elyon. So where is this tune from? This was written by someone named Israel Goldfarb, who's, he lived from the late 19th to mid 20th century. He was born in Galicia. He immigrated to the U.S. He got his smicha from the Jewish Theological Seminary, and he composed Shalom Aleichem in 1918. And this got incorporated into songbooks for late Friday night services at synagogues like in the New York area and beyond. So this was a thing that they would do, especially in conservative and reform synagogues, where when Shabbos would start early and everyone would kind of be at work whatever. Instead, they would just push the davening to much later in the evening so that people could come. And they would sing this tune for Shalom Aleichem, and this then spread all over the place and became very widespread and became the most well-known tune for Shalom Aleichem. So that's been around since 1918. So that's an old tune. We talked about last time already, Eshes Chayo, sung also Friday night. That's also a fairly old tune, but not as old. This was from Ben Sion Schenker, who lived his whole life in the 20th century and was the music secretary for the Majitzer Rebbe, and wrote a lot of tunes for Majitzer and also composed some of his own songs. Okay, so we're moving through the meal. Now we're up to benching. So benching. So the tune for benching. Everyone knows this tune also, right? Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam. So where does this tune come from? It's just ubiquitous. It's sung everywhere. So the answer to this is it was composed. What was the year here? It was composed in the 1920s. It's composed in the 1920s by a cantor by the name of Moshe Nathanson, who was born in Jerusalem and eventually came to New York. Now, in 1924, around the time that this tune was composed, Nathanson was hired by a shul as a cantor. Now, does anyone know what shul Nathanson was hired by? Well, I'll tell you. Nathanson was hired by the Society for Advancement of Judaism. The Society for Advancement of Judaism was the shul that Mordechai Kaplan founded after he left the Jewish Center and he left Orthodoxy. He was hired. He was the original rabbi of the Jewish Center in Manhattan. They actually built the shul for him. But he became clear over the next few years that he no longer held Orthodox beliefs, and he was not able to stay at the Jewish Center, and then he was actually forced out of the Jewish Center, and he started a new shul down the block from the Jewish Center called the Society for Advancement of Judaism, where he started to develop ideas that grew into the Reconstructionist movement later. But Nathanson was hired for Society for Advancement of Judaism as the cantor, and Kaplan wrote this about Nathanson. He says, Nathanson captivated us by his rendition, his sweet singing voice, but even more so, from the very beginning, he has been able to woo the congregation to chanting the service along with him. We are not reduced to a passive audience listening to a musical performance, but we join in lustily with all the verve, but without the antics of a Hasidic service. So this is exactly what Kaplan was going for. What Kaplan was trying to do with the davening was something similar to what the Young Israel movement at the same time was trying to do, and Kaplan was actually involved in Young Israel as well, although more peripherally than some others. But the idea is that we shouldn't just be listening to the cantor, but we should also all be singing together. And that was kind of the whole idea behind the tunes that Nathanson was using, and actually the whole idea behind the benching tune, which apparently was not originally written for benching. Originally, Nathanson wrote it for the Avot section of the Shabbat Amidah. So, right when the cantor starts Chazarat Hashatz repeating the Shemona Esrei, Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu Elokei Avotenu, that was supposed to be the tune. But it never really caught on. But then Kaplan urged Nathanson to instead make a nice tune for benching, so people could say Bir Chad Mazon and sing it together. So that he repurposed the melody he had written for Avot for Bir Chad Mazon, and that's the story behind the benching tune. But regardless of Nathanson's Reconstructionist affiliations, although to be fair, I don't know what Nathanson himself believed, and I don't know whether he agreed with Kaplan's program in full in terms of the theology, which was very different than traditional theology and didn't have like a traditional conception of God even. But regardless, Nathanson's tune caught on everywhere. Kind of like we talked about last time, how Devi Friedman's tune for Havdalah has caught on everywhere, although I'd say that Nathanson got there first, and not only that, but his tune is way more widespread even than Devi Friedman's tune. Okay, so that's benching. Okay, let's see. Let's go to Shabbos morning now. Okay, so we already talked actually about how when you open the Aron on Shabbos morning, everyone sings Vayihi ben so Aron, and that's from Solomon Sulzer. And we talked about Sulzer in some of our other classes about he was an Austrian cantor who was very important in sort of professionalizing the synagogue service, adapting it to Western notation, Western musical styles, and also writing pieces for a choir. So that piece is very typical of Sulzer, and we still sing it today. Okay, now we're putting away the Torah. Eitz Chaim Hi. So there's a tune that we I think most of us all sing in shul. Eitz Chaim Hi Lama Chazikim Ba. Now, you probably all think that tune must be ancient. No, it's not. That tune was written in 1975 by someone named Tanchum Portnoy, and he's still alive. And that was his. I don't know anything else he's written that's really famous, but that tune somehow, even though it was written 50 years ago, it just spread everywhere. I mean, I will say that certainly by like the 90s when I was a kid, we were doing it pretty much almost every week. So at least by then it was very widespread. There is another tune that we often do for Eitz Chaim, which I'm sure many of you know. Eitz Chaim hi v'machazikim bo. That's an older tune. That was written by someone named Nisan Blumenthal, who was a 19th century Eastern European cantor. Now, what's interesting though is that too, when it continues, it goes Hashivenu Hashem Heilecha v'nashuva. You probably heard that continuation as well. So apparently that's actually not part of the same tune. Apparently, that is a tune that's of unknown origin, probably even older than the first part, but there was a cantor named Samuel Molavsky who put the two of them together on an album that he recorded. I think in like the early 20th century or something like that. So that's the origin of that tune. Um, okay, and then we have people probably know this tune as well. We sing this one all the time also. Mechalkel chayim bechesed when we're doing the chazans during the repetition of Shemona Esrei. So where is that tune from? So that was written by someone named Max Wohlberg, a 20th century Hungarian-American chazan, and he was also in this group of, like Nathanson was trying to, and Goldfarb for that matter, who were trying to write singable synagogue music. And apparently though, I read in an article by a scholar who talked to Wohlberg about this, that he said that Wohlberg actually composed that tune from Mekalkel Chaim for kids to learn the synagogue service. And he wrote another tune in a minor key that was supposed to be for adults. But for whatever reason, it was Wahlberg's tune for the kids that caught on in shul that everyone sings, but his other tune is completely unknown, which is just how that happens. And while we're on the topic of tunes that were clearly written for kids, that one is not necessarily obvious, although it is a simple tune, so you can sort of see how that's true. Not necessarily obvious. Here's another one I just learned about, which I love this one. Okay, so we're singing Aleinu in shul. You know, that starts like Aleinu l'shabeach ladon hakol. I was trying to figure out where exactly that motif comes from. It's not completely clear. Seltzer, it seems like it related to some stuff that Seltzer wrote, but the tune actually shifts and changes as it goes on. There's like several different tunes actually going on if you sing Aleinu all the way from the beginning to the end. But anyway, here's one part I want to focus on. After we all bow, we sing Shehu noteh shamayim v'yosed haaretz u'moshev yikaro b'shamayim mima'al. And that tune is actually the itsy bitsy spider went up the water spout. Down came the rain and washed the spider out. So, very clearly, this was someone who was trying to teach Aleinu to kids in the synagogue, and they said, would it be nice just to use that common kids tune for that portion of Aleinu? So it's kind of interesting how these things come to be. Okay, we got a few more.
The end of Aleinu is the farmer in the dell.
Yes. They mentioned that in the article also. Yeah, like V'nemar v'haya Hashem, Alecha, farmer in the dell, the farmer, something like that. I don't know. I have to think about that one a little more, but yeah, it did say that in the article. I didn't practice it though, just to see the comparison. But yeah, okay. So then at the end of the service, we often sing Adon Olam. Now, I'm going to play you something, and you tell me what you think. But then it's not going to be as simple as it sounds. So here we are. This is a group called the Village Stompers, the Poet and the Prophet. This was from the 1963. All right. Very good. It sounds like Adon Olam, right? Now,
can I see that again? I want to take a screenshot of it.
Sure. Yeah, I'll play this a little bit more. But I'm going to complicate this in a second, so don't put too much stock in what I'm saying. I'm confusing you. Okay, are we good? All right. Okay, so
Yeah, thank you.
maybe some of you here though will tell me that it's 1963, but for sure they were singing that tune in shul before 1963. I mean, I'm not old enough to know that, but maybe some of you would be able to tell me that. And so the question is, so what's going on over here? So actually, Adon Olam is a traditional Jewish tune as far as we know. It's first written down with musical notation in 1897, actually, from a chazan by the name of Eliezer Gerovich, a Russian chazan. And he even says in that when he wrote it down, that it's an old tune. So he didn't even write it. He's just recording something he himself had already heard in shul, presumably. So this is actually a very old Jewish tune. So it seems instead here we see the reverse influence. We've talked a lot about how the Jewish borrow from non-Jewish songs. So here it seems like the Village Stompers, and it sounds like the authors of this particular song for them. This particular song were named Joe Sherman and George David Weiss. So with names like that, it seems like these people had probably been in shul at some point in their life, and they took it from shul. So sometimes it goes that direction as well. Now Yigdal. Yigdal has a similar story along with it. So we know the common tune for Yigdal as well. Yigdal Elokim. Wait, no. Yigdal Elokim Chai v'yishtabach nimsa v'yenes el mitziusa echav v'yen yachid ki yichuda. Right, so we all know the common tune for Yigdal. I accidentally did a different common tune at first, but I actually don't know where that one's from. But this one I just sang for you now. This is also a very old tune. This was arranged by a British chazan by the name of Meyer Leon, who lived in the 1700s, and he was the chazan at the Great Synagogue in London. He also sang in the theater, and it's possible that this tune for Yigdal even predates Leon, and he was just transcribing it. It's actually hard to know. But here's something interesting happened. In the 1770s already, there was a Methodist preacher by the name of Thomas Olivers. He visited the synagogue in London, where Leon was the chazan, and he heard Leon and the choir presumably singing this tune, and he was so taken by it that he composed a church hymn based on this tune, and the church hymn is called God of Abraham Praise. And this is apparently still sung in some churches today, and you can hear over here, God of Abraham Praise. Yeah. So you could really hear, especially in that second part, how similar it is to the Yigdal tune, and that was taken explicitly from the Yigdal tune. And I think also as far as Christian hymns go, it's a fairly universal hymn. It's really about, it doesn't talk about Jesus and stuff like that. So I thought it was reasonably appropriate to share here. But it's interesting how you can see this cross-cultural pollination really goes both ways, not just from non-Jewish to Jewish, but also the other direction as well. So we've gone through some interesting synagogue tunes and where they came from, and some interesting aspects of that. There are some other very famous Jewish tunes that also have a long history, which Adir Hu, for example, that we sing at the Seder night, like Adir Hu, Yivne Beis Avikarov. That's a German tune, probably. That's already dates back to the 1600s, although it's been modified a lot over the years. Ma'osor, we've talked about a little bit. Ma'osor Yeshuasi was like some kind of Lutheran hymn as well. We mentioned that. It's even been made into I think Bach apparently even used it in one of his chorales. That's what it seems like. I found that recently. You can hear. You can hear Bach, the Bach piece by Bach over here. right, so you can hear Ma'atzor over there as well in Bach, and there's all sorts of interesting examples again like this. But I think we've gone through so enough tunes for the moment. But I did want to end by sharing one more thing that just happened like this week, and it's been all over my social media at least. People have been sharing this, talking about again non-Jews borrowing Jewish tunes. Well, there's a song called "Tati My King," calling it that written by someone from the yeshiva called the Waterbury Yeshiva. They composed these tunes. So it's also been covered by Benny Friedman, one of the popular Jewish artists. And it talks about Hashem. It talks about Hashem taking care of us and holding on to us and stuff like that. So here is a cover of Tati My King. Oh, that's not okay. Hold on. Okay, here we go. Tati, my king, Father, I plead, don't ever let go of me, ever let go of me. Tati, my king, Father, I plead, don't ever let go of me, ever let go of me. All right, so I think you got the picture there. We have an Amish Mennonite choir performing a from Orthodox Jewish pop song because I guess why not? I think they like the message. I don't know what they think of the word tati, the Yiddish word for father, but in any event, it is what it is, and we see this just sort of real interesting borrowing and cross-cultural pollination. If I have to sort of conclude this entire series, what I would say is that Jewish music has really been all over the place, from the church to the synagogue, from Seltzer to Rosenblatt to the concert hall, from Genghis Khan to K-pop demon hunters. And so what really makes music Jewish? And I think there's really nothing we can say distinctively is like a Jewish sound. What there is, however, is there's the words of Tanakh, there's the words of the Siddur, is having the right intentions. And I think what makes music Jewish, what makes it sacred, is the kavana, the intent of the composer, of the singer, of the listener. And what is the religious commitment behind it? Does it bring us closer to Hashem? And I think that's the litmus test we ought to apply for categorizing Jewish music. As one of my favorite Jewish songwriters wrote in his album Journeys, in one of his songs, A.B. Rottenberg, he wrote, "One thing we must keep in mind, a Jewish song of any kind is only precious if and when it brings us closer to Hashem." And I think that's the right way to think about this. So yes, so Jewish music is all over the place, is a bit of a mess, but I love it for what it is, and I think there's really a lot we can learn from it as long as we have the right intentions. There's a lot we can enrich from other cultures and other places with our music. So that's all I wanted to present here. We have some extra time, which is good because then we can have some more discussion about this. Let me first go through the comments in the chat, and then we'll.
Wait, let's have a chat. All right.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. What do we have here? Yeah, the singer had to remove more direct reference to October 7th for it to pass muster. I think that might have been the October Rain one, although I could be mistaken, but not New Day Will Rise, although I'm not sure. Yeah, there was an entire genre of music written after October 7th, as well as the popularization and widespread recording of Achino musicians of all religious backgrounds. Yeah, sure. Yeah, and I think October 7th also has a big role to play in sort of this increased religious expression in Israeli pop music. And I think that really brought people together in an interesting way, and people started putting a lot more religious stuff in their songs. Mel says, "I'm almost certain that Moshe Nathans was a music teacher at Crown Heights Yeshiva when I was a student in the early 1950s. Someone told me at the time that he was a composer of the tune for Birkat Hamazon." Oh, it's great. Awesome. Could very well be. That's, yeah. And again, I'm not saying, these people tend to move in a lot of different circles. Ariel says, "Eitz Chaim tune is from European pop singer Engelbert Humperdinck." I don't know. Which Eitz Chaim? Because I think the one written by Portnoy was written by him. but I'll have to check into that because I've heard this Humperdinck claim before, but I'm not sure which tune they're referring to. Goldfarb of Shalom Aleichem Tune's brother wrote a little Have a Little Traitor. Oh, that's interesting. That's interesting. Oh, cool. Okay. Oh, here's the Humperdinck sung on Ed Sullivan. Wait, so what's this?
Not working.
We're not hearing that. I don't know if you are.
I'm sorry?
We didn't hear that.
Oh, okay. Yeah. No, I think I'd have to share. Oh, yeah, I'll have to look into that later. Maybe, unless I can figure out how to share it. See if I can share it, actually. Hold on. Then people can hear. Okay. Wait, no, sorry. Okay, hold on. We'll get this right. Okay, there we go.
Riding now through the days together to the end, till the end. Lady say clad the bell sighs, carry a side by side, and hand in hand we will ride over Versailles. Turn your magical eyes round and around, looking at.
All right, so there's definitely a lot of similarity there to the Eitz Chaim too. And so I guess Tanchum Portnoy borrowed some of it from there. Um, so and then we have let's see, Yigdal tune got majorified in parts. Yeah. So yeah, it seems like it's not exactly the same. For example, like the Christian version that I played you and the Jewish one are not exactly the same. Okay. Portnoy's sons have recordings on YouTube also. Yeah, under the name Portnoy Brothers. At least one has their dad also. Yes, I have seen that. Some of that as well. Okay. So I think unless I missed something.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Hi, Rachel Weisel here. How
Yes.
are you? Thank you for the class. I'm the musician. I'm the violinist.
Right. Yes, I remember.
Yeah. I'm new to this Torah and emotion. I'm not sure. Is this like a modern Orthodox or what how would you, I guess, box it in this
I should let Rabbi
organization?
I should let Rabbi Kelman probably take that
I
one.
want you to answer first, and then I can put in my 2 cents worth. Okay.
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 I
I
want
mean,
everybody here to answer that question. I want to hear what you think, what people say.
I would call this modern Orthodox. I think it takes the best, takes it's a very serious Torah oriented class. It brings in things from outside the Torah world as well. Academic scholarship is often referenced, and music that might otherwise not make it into discussion Orthodox classes. But yeah.
Awesome.
Okay, very not bad, not bad. Okay, we have to put you on our marketing team. Yeah, we like to appeal to all Jews, but yeah, I would say I don't want to say guilty. We're innocent of the charge that we're modern Orthodox. That's very good, and what I don't know what it means exactly, but what the world at large and Torah is relevant for the making Torah relevant to everybody at all times and using all means.
All right.
Okay.
Good. Very good.
Yosef, I have a question for
Yeah.
you, Yosef.
Mhm.
Do you know anything about the origin of the tune for Anim Zemiros? Anim Zemiro, the Shirim, Ero, Ki Elecha, Nafsi Tarog.
No, I
Okay,
don't.
when my father heard this tune sung for the
Hmm.
first time for Anim Zemiros, he said, wow, this was a piyut that's from Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur in the German liturgy in Frankfurt. It
Oh,
was
okay.
there's a piyut, a responsive reading. A lot of people, a lot of shuls don't even say this piyut anymore, but it's done on both Rosh Hashanah Shachris, on the second day Rosh Hashanah Shachris, and also Yom Kippur Shachris. And it's a responsive reading where the Chazan says a phrase and the Kahal repeats a three-word phrase. On Yom Kippur, it's the refrain that the Kahal says is to Ashrei, our Mimcha like Melech, etc. But that was a tune, and it seems that this tune seems to be one of the motifs of Yomim Noraim in the Yekish tunes. People sing Shalom Shir Hamalos to this tune during Yom Noraim, just like they sing various other tunes for Shir Hamalos on before benching on all of the other chagim. For Pesach they use the Adirhu Shir Hamalos B'Shuv Hashem Eshev Shivasi Kachomim, and Simchas Torah they use
Maybe this is sure.
it's
What is this?
okay. So there are various different tunes. Various different tunes that are used that are the motifs for those different holidays. And the Anam Zemiros that is commonly used now seems to be that from Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, from Yom Noraim in the Frankfurt community.
Well, that's great. Thank you so much. That's exactly what I'm looking for in this part of the class. People to tell me origins of tunes I didn't know about. So that's great. Thank you.
Would this be a good time to talk more about what I wrote you about during the week?
Sure. Yeah, sure. You can mention that.
So I've had this project going on to make things short. So there's two things I want to say. My music teacher once sent me to a YouTube. This was not a YouTube, a Zoom class. This was during COVID. She's very steeped into early music, and I like that genre as well. So somebody gave this presentation. He put a score in a Dropbox, and I thought to myself, so it's from the 12th century. It's a poem written by King Alfonso X. He wrote these 42 poems, these 42 cantigas that were all very subversive of the Catholic Church. And I listened to this thing and I said, I think Lecha Dodi would go to that. So I worked with my teacher on resetting that to Lecha Dodi, but that was like while I was already immersed in doing this, I sing in my local Jewish community chorus, and friends of mine in another one were doing a piece by Palestrina, who, for those of you who don't know, was the gadol of the Italian Renaissance composers. And it was a verse from Psalm 42. Ka'ayal tarog al afike mayim, ke nafshi tarog elach Elohim. And I said, oh my gosh, if you're singing Palestrina, then we have to do that too. So I brought it up to the chorus and got buy-in. And I said, we're a Jewish group, and this is the Tehillim. We should not be singing this in Latin. So I was given the job, it was my plan, lechatchila, to do that. It wasn't easy. I needed a lot of help from my teacher. Our conductor put his 2 cents in. We had a lot of discussions and disagreements about, where syllables should fit. And his other group actually world premiered it at Merkin Hall in Lincoln Center in New York, and got a standing ovation. I have not been able to get it published, but I also don't know too much about music publishing. And then after that, I heard something on the radio that I thought, oh my gosh, this is really beautiful music. And it turns out it was by Tomás Luis de Victoria of Spain, who it turns out was the Spanish Palestrina, also was dubbed God's composer. And I thought to myself, gee, he's from Spain. I wonder if he's got, a Jewish skeleton hanging in his genealogical closet. And it turns out, yes, his mother's family, his great-great-grandparents they went to Portugal on his mother's side. They went to Portugal, then they came back and they converted. So he was a priest, and I figured I need to reset his music. It'll be a tikkun. So I've been doing that for like the past 10 years, working with my teacher on resetting these scores, Tehillim and Shir Hashirim. Sometimes he'll leave out like the juicy part of a verse, but he repeats things a lot. So like I just put in the rest of it. So and at the Psalms sometimes have this doxology at the end, some sort of statement of faith, and I put in I replaced those with nice things that kind of a shtuch to the church sometimes.
Okay, yeah. Well, thanks for telling us about this. It's very, very much in line with what we talked about with Rossi and the way
Yeah,
that he would
yeah,
use the Renaissance music and to compose
yeah,
for Tehillim and stuff like that.
and
Yeah.
as I together with a collaborator, I wrote a short story. I wanted him to get in touch with his Jewish side, so I wrote
Mhm.
a fiction piece of
Yes.
his.
Hi,
Um,
Yosef.
yeah. Yeah.
So I remember Jay last time asked if I could play violin.
I'm sorry, you're saying I actually
Sorry, I'm hearing a little bit of a reverb.
right.
Jay asked if I could play the violin just for a song for a minute. Is that okay?
Vakasha.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, so this is my husband and I. We're Jewish musicians.
If you want to turn on your video so we could see, you can, but if you don't want,
Okay, yeah, I just woke up, but okay,
okay,
I'll
you
give
don't
you a
have to turn it
video.
on. You don't have to, but okay.
It's California here. Can you see we're from iPhone 5 right there? Or iPhone?
Okay, we don't hear anything quite yet.
No.
Oh, now I see it.
We're gonna play Eitz Chaim.
Okay, Vakasha.
Yeah. We cannot hear it. Can you hear?
No, we don't hear anything.
Ah.
You don't hear anything. Second. Okay, right. Fine.
Yeah, we can see you, and we can.
Hear your voices, but no music.
Yeah.
You can hear?
No, we hear when you speak. We don't hear when you play.
Ah.
Sometimes Zoom cuts out the frequencies of music.
Here, mute it there, and I'll play it here. Let's try this. Can you turn the volume down on that one?
There we go. Yeah.
Okay, that we
Yeah?
heard. Yeah.
You
That-
hear?
we did a
Just
second
just
ago.
a
Yeah.
little bit. I think it's a Zoom function. It doesn't like all frequencies.
Okay, we'll give it one more shot. Otherwise, we'll have to you have to send us a recording.
Yeah.
It helps if you turn on original sound for musicians.
Yeah.
What's that?
It helps if you've turned on original sound for musicians and click the box optimize sound.
Oh, okay. So can you do that here? What was it? You
That
turn.
is what you would do.
What would I do again?
Optimize original sound for musicians on, and then optimize sound for musicians. On my computer, they're on the right side of the screen.
That we need to know.
Got it.
Thank you. Okay, how about this? Thanks for listening.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thanks.
I
That
think
was wonderful.
if
It's
Yosef
good.
Lindell did an encore class, maybe you can do an encore
Wonderful,
to
wonderful.
music.
Thank you.
So very nice.
We got a
Very
little, so we got some nice Tanchum, Portnoy, and apparently Engelbert Humperdinck
yes,
combined.
yes. Okay, thank you very much.
God bless
Okay,
you all. Take care.
okay. Thank you, Rich. Okay, any other last minute questions? Okay, otherwise we'll thank Yosef. We'll have to wait for his next I don't know what to call it, brainstorm. All his classes, as he said right at the beginning, are a little bit off the beat, which is I think what makes them so interesting. So
I just want to say that the song Tamid Ohevoti is the classic example of religious secular Israeli music. I think it was the most popular song in Israel for a while. And it just represented all the trauma and all the depth of pain and belief and secular stuff that was going on in Israel.
Yeah, I agree. In the article that I referenced briefly in Tablet, they mentioned that song as well as like an important example of this phenomenon.
Okay.
Well, speaking on that level, Yosef Karduner and the song that he did that made Tehillim famous across all of Israel. Everybody knows the Psalms. Which one is it? Yeah, everybody in Israel knows that now because
right.
of
So
him.
right. So that's a good example also. Yeah.
That's for next time.
Yeah. And I believe I am scheduled to give a Parsha share in a few
I
weeks.
believe in 2 weeks. Tomorrow night is Moshe Sokolow.
Yeah. Well, I think
next week is Rabbi
Kitisa.
Goldman.
Yeah,
I
I'm doing
believe you're in
Kitisa,
2 weeks, but I'll double check. Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
We don't let you go too far,
Yeah. So that's also I can give a preview of that. It's going to be very unusual, also that one.
Well, of course. Well, I wouldn't expect anything
Yeah.
else. Okay.
Is that going to be
All
at
right.
the same time or channel?
No, that's 8:30. We have Rachel every Thursday night. I mean, you get our schedule. Every Thursday night we have a partial share, and every week given by somebody else.
We're
So
gonna have musical accompaniment.
Anytime.
okay, well, we can
Anytime.
plan the musical accompaniment.
Let me know, Jay. You have my email.
We should have done it
Anytime.
last week for Shabbat Shira. We should have had musical accompaniment and
every day is Shabbos Shira for us.
Yeah, it's good. Thank you for helping.
You live in California, right, Rachel?
Yeah, in San Diego.
Oh, San Diego.
We're like the only observant Jewish musicians. I don't know, that's not true. But we're one of the very few in this area because it's a small Jewish community.
Yeah, I've never been to San Diego, but okay.
Come and visit. It's great here.
Okay.
Yosef, thank you for helping bring us into Adar with Simcha.
Oh, great.
Oh, yeah, we should have played you that one next time.
Yeah, so why don't we end, if you don't mind, we'll end. You can play us Misha Nichnas Adar as everybody leaves.
I think we have a hand raised there. Sora wanted to say something. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just thinking a group out of the United States that wasn't mentioned is the Hadar Incident and the Rising Song Project.
Yeah. That is true.
They have been really, really big at promulgating existing music, sharing Sephardic music, and making new tunes.
That is true. I guess I'm trying to figure out like what's their reach in terms of like I was focused more on sort of like the yeshiva pop almost like I didn't really talk about Hadar. I wonder what their I mean I definitely think there's some of their stuff is being sung and played in some modern Orthodox institutions, but I almost feel like it's mostly more. I don't know. I feel like outside like the left wing institutions, they're not even aware of what Hadar is doing at the Rising Song Institute. I mean, I think a lot of what they're doing is really good, but I think people aren't a lot of parts of the Orthodox community. People aren't aware of it. I think maybe they should be, but they're not.
It's good kosher music.
Yeah, no,
in my humble opinion.
No, I agree. A lot of their Nigunim are really beautiful, and they have a lot of really good stuff. I mean, it is men and women singing often, which can be a problem for some people. Although again, we talked last time about Rabbi Lichtenstein. Yeah, we talked about Yonina. We talked about Rav Lichtenstein. We talked about Rav Bigman. So yeah. Lisa says that Hadar is here where I live. They hold services. They perform their modern Orthodox. Interesting. I mean, Hadar considers themselves non-denominational. But what's interesting about Hadar is they have a very strong. They're very serious about what they do. They they don't they're not trying to they have a very serious commitment to halacha on the terms that they understand it.
My synagogue calls itself unaffiliated also, and we are
Yeah.
very committed.
Where do you live, Sarah?
I live in
What's your shul?
I live in Los Angeles, and I go to a shul named Ikar. Many people might have heard of our rabbi's new book, The Amen Effect, by Sharon Brous.
Oh, I've heard of
No.
it. Yeah, I've heard of it. I heard of the show. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have been to LA, but only twice in my life, but I haven't been to San Diego. Okay, it's been a long time since I was in California.
Come visit.
Okay.
I like LA. I go every year.
Oh, okay.
I have family out there, so.
Okay, so anyways, okay. We're going to France this summer. Everybody's welcome. We don't do tour and motion tours to LA and San Diego. That's it. I travel. So but Portugal, we just sent out an email. We're giving a special $500 off our Portugal trip. But really, these for those who have not been on our trips, they really are wonderful trips. And Mark Shapiro will be leading those trips, scholar in residence, learning. Good gashmius and good ruchnius. It's really they're fun and learning and seeing wonderful sights. So if it's a nice thing to consider once we're talking about travel and tours, and it's snowing again, another 10 inches of snow in Toronto or something today. So what a better time to think about summer travels. Okay. There's also on the West Coast. Very interesting. Okay, Yosef, thank you. And thank you, everybody. And look forward to learning with you soon. Please invite a friend. As I mentioned in the beginning, our Purim Yom Ayun on Sunday, all our regular classes throughout the course of the week, but Purim 9:15 a.m. We hope to see you all on Sunday morning. Okay, everybody be well and have a wonderful day. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Have a good day.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Chodesh Tov.
Chodesh Tov, Nishanichnas Adar Marbim B'Simcha. Now everybody will leave quickly. The more I sing, Misha, 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 Nichnas Adar. All right,
I can end it, right?
Right. Oh, that I forgot. You're the host. I'm not.
Yeah, I should end. Okay, I will do that.
No, I'm not going to let you. I'm going to reclaim the host.
Oh, okay. Oh, you did. Yeah, I see. I see.
Just did it. Okay. I occasionally I have done that where I usually make myself host because I had sometimes I leave the speaker host and I'm in the middle of speaking and it cuts off and it's like announcing some program. But
I think it works. When I'm sharing the music, I think it works better when I'm host. So that's partially why I said it.
I don't think it matters, but that's
okay.
It shouldn't matter whether you're a host or co-host in terms of sharing. It could be. I'm not aware but that's interesting. You say that.
Is Torah in Motion your baby, Jay?
Torah in Motion is our baby. My wife Ilana and myself. Yeah, it's our baby, and Baruch Hashem, it's doing well. It's growing and do wonderful things. Yes. We started, created, founded, direct. Well, all those other words. Torah in Motion. Yes.
God bless you and your wife.
Right.
Okay. Thank you.
I love your classes. It's just a problem being a West Coaster, but I've taken classes.
You mean the ones at 11 in the morning, at 10 in the morning? You wake up early.
Well, no, I have a morning minion every morning at 8:00.
Oh,
my time.
You wrote me on my sitter class, right? That it conflicts, right? I think that was you or somebody else wrote me, right? 9:25 on Friday. Yeah, somebody wrote me that they go to shul at 6:30 every morning. I said, okay, Baruch Hashem. But everything is taped, and everything is taped and recorded. It's not exactly the same as being live, but it's pretty good. It's pretty good. So,
I started taking your class.
And whatever time, this one in Australia, it doesn't like it. Then our 8:30 class people in Israel say it's 3:30 in the morning, can never please all the people all the time. You can please some of the people sometimes. Isn't that the expression, right? You can please some of the people some of the time and all of the people. Okay. Anyways, but thank you. We try to offer classes at all times, different times, different speakers, different perspectives. So there's Torah for everybody and lots of wonderful Torah for everybody. Okay. That's our, okay. Be well, everybody. Okay. Oh boy. Talking a lot to everybody's, what Torah in Motion, this, that. Okay.
Love Torah in Motion.
Yeah, me too.
I started coming during the pandemic.
Yeah, that's when the pandemic, that's when we went on Zoom. We were doing online before the pandemic, but not to the extent we are. And because we were, it was easy, we geared up right away. And Baruch Hashem, since the pandemic, I think we've had about over 2,000 classes since the pandemic. It's 2,500. I don't know the exact number, but it's somewhere between 2,500 and 3,000 classes.
Wow.
So if you're ever looking for something to do at night, lots to listen to. So, and then we have stuff before the pandemic, of course, which is recorded, not a video. And then we have all our Shabbos programs, which we didn't record, hundreds of those.
Have you considered putting it on Spotify also?
So our podcasts are on Spotify. We have two,
Right.
I guess three podcasts that we do. I have my Parsha podcast, 10 minutes on the Parsha every week. Then we have
The answer is one day. Please God, one day we can get everything onto Spotify.
Because there are people who approached me and they said it would be easier for them to listen to the classes if they were on Spotify also.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So it's a lot of work, and
Correct.
it would
That's
be
the
amazing
problem.
if we could make it happen.
Yeah, it's a lot of work and a lot of money, and it's a lot of time. Yeah. People have told it's we do what we can. So please God, but what Ilana says is right. One day. But in the meantime, I don't understand why people find it so much easier on Spotify, but that's because I'm a certain age and
I wouldn't.
I think it has to do. I think it has to do with the fact that Spotify is better at keeping your place. That's part of it.
Right.
Yeah.
It is on YouTube, which has quite similar features. All the classes are also on YouTube, which can be searched and listened to similar to Spotify. But each one has to be individually edited and made into a podcast,
I
which
see.
maybe one day could happen. Hopefully.
I see. Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, but I will say I actually went to a Torah motion class, I think in maybe 2008, 2009. I was registered for one with Mark Shapiro. So maybe was that around when you started?
Yeah, we started, I believe, 2007. I believe 2000 or 2008 was when we first started. And so
there was Mark Shapiro and there was a Parsha class.
And then we had our spoken. Right.
I remember going to Mark Shapiro's class. I was impressed even then. I'm like, this is great that this exists. And I had no idea that one day I'd be teaching for you also. But
right. Okay.
Right. And amazingly, probably even before 2007, Benny Lau interviewed his father. Benny Lau was in Toronto, and his father, whose first name I can't remember at this moment, but who was really a celebrity in the establishment of the state of Israel, was in Israel. And he interviewed him online in public.
Naftali Lau-Levi.
Yeah, right. in Israel. That was one of the first times we started using the technology.
Yeah, that was when we used to have a big program in Toronto, like Ilana says, and we had it on screen. And he wrote Balaam's Prophecy, by the way. Now it's a very fascinating book. But yeah. So we were starting, and then we had this talking Kavata Itim La Torah. That was we should go back to that phrase, Kavata Itim La Torah. I hope people get the double entendre there. And anyway, so there you go. Yeah, we were really we were doing this before anybody was doing this, and then Baruch Hashem. So and now we do a lot of it. And we still do a little bit of live programming. That used to be our bread and butter. And now we still looking to do a little bit more, get into the live program. Some people in Toronto miss that, our live, I mean, in person. This is live or in-person programming. But people from California, it'd be hard to come. And you complain you're going to shul in the morning during our class. So if we do them in Toronto, you got to get on the plane for 5 hours. So that's a little harder. Okay. Anybody else want to know anything else about Torah in Motion?
Okay, I want to suggest to Yosef to go to YouTube and look for Cantor Louis Danto. He was a cantor together with Rabbi Jay's father, Rabbi Kelman, but he survived the Holocaust because of his voice. And it's a very interesting story. You can go to YouTube, Cantor Louis Danto, and you'll find out a very interesting story.
Thank you. I'll take a look.
I have mentioned in the past, Ruchama mentioned, that her husband was really one of the world's top chazanim, and my father was the rabbi of the shul. Her husband was the bar mitzvah. which was a Yovel ago at my bar mitzvah, and he was the chazan and the chazan in the shul in Toronto, and so that's how we know each other, Ruchama and myself. Know each other for many, many years. She knows what I was like when I was a little kid, and she's not going to tell you because maybe she will too. I won't be embarrassed.
I hope I did justice to some of the history of Chazanut. I don't think I covered everything, but.
But Yosef, I really suggest you to go to YouTube and look for Cantor Luis Danto.
Yeah, okay, sure. I'll take a look.
That's an interesting story.
Yeah.
And Surah, yes, all our recordings are on the website, but if you listen, but they're also on YouTube. And when you listen on the website, you're actually, I believe you're connecting to YouTube too. So yeah, so we have them on our program page. You can go to the program you want, just have them there, or you can go to YouTube where, we got everything all there. So anyways, okay, I think it's time I got to go prepare my podcast. It's already late. Get my podcast ready to get up so can talk. Parsha Truma is so exciting. There's so much to talk about. I have to figure out what I'm going to say, but I think
You have a podcast.
I'm sorry?
So you do have a podcast.
I personally have a 10-minute we call it a 10-minute podcast. Sometimes it's 12 minutes, you'll forgive me, you'll be mocha me on the Parsha every week. And we also have this fantastic podcast, really the podcast of Jewish ideas, where you really see the breadth of the intellectual thought. It's run by J.J. Kimchi, who recently got his PhD at Harvard. He's now teaching at the University of Austin. And he runs and interviews really a tremendous range of people. That's all on Spotify or on the website. Go on the podcast of Jewish Ideas. We really had some wonderful speakers. And those are about an hour long. They come out, I would say, 2 to 3 times a month on Thursdays. They come out.
2 of them. One of them's called Jewish Ideas, and the other one.
Here, if you go to the podcast page, if you wait on 1 second, I will put it in the chat box, and then you can see our podcast. Just give me half a second. So
while you're getting you half a second, I want to let you know my husband's background. He was famous in Israel for music in show business. He did the television project that won like the equivalency of the Grammys there in Israel. It's called Red Band Puppet Show, and him and his best friend started that. So speaking of, but he became, since then he did those showbiz world wasn't really for him, and he's more of a spiritual person, and he grew up very secular atheist family, like scientific, and his father was the professor in Tel Aviv University, and now his brother takes the place, and so science family, but he became observant over the past, and now he's and he has a Peretz Chen is like his great grandfather. So we're not Chabad, so to say, but he's very connected with his Chabad roots since he's become more observant, and it's just interesting to be here in this class as musicians and kind of in both worlds.
Very nice. Okay, great. Okay, I think we can go, but that you can see the podcast we have there. We've converted some of Mark Shapiro's talks into podcasts. That's you're talking, put it on Spotify. Mm-hmm. The J.J. Kimchi podcasts with my Parsha are specifically done as podcasts. There's no audience when they're recorded, etc. So you can. I highly recommend that. I mean, the Parsha, when you listen, you see, I hope you like it. It's different from the Dvar Torah I write in the week. When I first started, I write, I work hard. What the Parsha thought on the week is one idea, and the podcast is a separate idea. So they're not the same. Anyways, okay, Yosef, get back to work in the capital. Washington's going to fall apart if you don't.
I do have to get back.
Yeah, lots of fun things going on in Washington there. Oh yeah. Okay, what's happening at the White House this week? Okay, everybody, enjoy. It's Adar. Be well. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.